last panel of the day. This next one is entitled, Dear Parents, How Much Involvement is Too Much Involvement? So this session will explore the fine line between supportive engagement and over-involvement. We'll unpack strategies for parents to effectively contribute to their children's educational journey without stifling their independence. Our panelists will share insights into building an environment where children can thrive autonomously while being fully supported. So first of all, I would like to welcome up our moderator for this next session, and that is Vinnie Mather. Come on down, Vinnie. Is Vinnie? Oh, fantastic. And Vinnie is the General Manager, External Relations and Chairperson of Young Thinkers Forum, Office of the Vice Chancellor, Shiv Nadar Institution of Eminence. And then our panelists, Tony Attridge, Founder and CEO, the College of Health and Fitness. Dr. Elana Glassenberg, Educational Consultant, and Elias Shibli, CEO, CLAP GmbH. Let's give them all a round of applause.
So good evening to everyone. I know it's been a long day and a tiring one, so we won't take much time, and we're also a little behind of time. So let's begin by introducing ourselves. I'm Vinnie Mathur, as she just announced, but my first and foremost introduction is that I'm a parent, and I'm a lucky parent of two handsome young boys who are 19 and almost 19 and 14. I work with Shiv Nadar Institution of Eminence as the General Manager, External Relations, Office of the Vice Chancellor. And I also chair a program called Young Thinkers Forum, which is a program to bridge gaps between schools and universities and also giving students a sneak peek into university life. So thank you so much for being here, and it would be lovely to have more people. And come a little bit in front so that we can see some beautiful faces, smiling faces. We want to make this an engaging session. And I would now hand over to Tony to kindly introduce himself.
What if I push the button to turn it on? Thank you. So my name's Tony Attridge. I'm the founder and owner of the College of Health and Fitness based in Australia. And we run a number of courses within fitness business, nutrition, as well as health management, and in particular with school-based students and disadvantaged youth. So those who are incarcerated in correctional centres or juvenile detention centres within Australia. So hopefully I'll be able to give a slightly different perspective to everyone else here on the panel, based on the juvenile justice system within Australia and how the education system and parental involvement does or does not necessarily work.
My name is Elana Glassenberg. I'm up here today, so most of you have heard from me already. I spent several decades working as a college counsellor and a learning support counsellor at an international school in Switzerland. And after that, I worked as principal in a private boarding school in Switzerland. I currently work for a Swiss foundation that builds schools in former Soviet Union countries as well as Africa. So I'm able to compare how parental involvement differs depending on the country that the school is situated in.
Good day, everyone. My name is Elias Shibli. I'm a parent of 3. Meanwhile, I have 15 years experience of parenting, but I haven't reached the professional level yet. I still make lots of mistakes day to day, and that's also what I teach my children on day to day. The best way to learn things is through making mistakes. At the same time, about 7 years ago, I felt very disengaged by the school. I wasn't involved. I felt like I outsourced all kind of education to the schools and kind of felt disengaged, disconnected. And I found that at that time we founded CLUB, which is a school communication solution that meanwhile helps about 100,000 teachers on a daily basis to engage about 500,000 of parents, and kind of returning, getting them involved, delegate back a powerful tool that helps them to get the parents re-engaged, to ease the burden of the responsibility we parents like to outsource to the parents. We gave them a tool to get them back involved, and I think it's a collaboration we learned the last 2 days is the foundation that solves a lot of things. There is too little engagement on one hand, but there can be also too much engagement, which we learned can lead to bullying, not just bullying of children's, but there is what we observe a lot. If the parents over-engage, also teachers become victim of bullying.
Great, thank you everyone. So let's begin our conversation today, which revolves a lot about parenting and how much and too much and how do we go about. So my first question will be to Elias, where we talk about can we define parenting and how can digital tools support effective parental engagement without leading to over-involvement?
Well, I think a good definition of parenting is be there, spend time with the children and listen to the needs of the children. But then also open up themselves for a partnership with the teacher. Seek collaboration, seek a partnership, foster better relationship with the teacher, and then join these forces and like to come to a better education by a good teamwork, body up with the teachers on a daily basis.
I forgot to mention that parents of two and grandparents of two, and it's really fun to watch your own children becoming parents. You see they make a difference. But I do think that there are several very effective tools that can help parents feel engaged in their child's education without having to micromanage too much. And I think that teachers could use Google Classroom to send timely and necessary messages. They could use Class Dojo, progress reports that keep parents updated on their child's progress without having to constantly ask about how the child is performing. My job, as I said earlier, was college counselor and learning support counselor. Those are probably two of the most challenging jobs when dealing with parents, because not only are you telling the parents that their child may not be accepted into the university of their choice, but also that the child might have a learning disability or something that's affecting the child's progress. And I have had parents crying after some one of the patients is going to grow up. So it's very difficult to manage that balance and for parents to feel they trust you, they respect you, and that you're someone that they can go to and not feel that there's any way.
Thank you. Very good question. Now, I have a very small issue when we use the term parents, because it's not just the parents who take the kids to school. It is the auntie, the uncle, the next door neighbour, the grandparents, whoever is available because mum is at work and dad is not around. So when we look at the definition of parents, I think it's something that's very, or should be used very loosely. And if it was my choice of panel discussion, it should be dear involved adult or dear involved guardian rather than dear involved parent. From our end, we, as I said, we do get a significant number of disengaged students who are not necessarily in the best place in the world, who probably don't have that engaged individual with them, which is in about 80% of cases have led them to the path that they're on when they come to us. So from too much involvement, my viewpoint is there's also, on the flip side, too little involvement in some aspects of a child's education. And it's about finding that right balance of what's right and what's too much and what's just enough. And I'm pretty sure that everyone in the room here will have different experiences based on your own cultures, based on the cohorts of students who you work with. So, and just like everyone else on the panel here, my experience is going to be totally different to everyone else sitting there because, show of hands, anyone else who works with incarcerated children? No, so I'm going to have a very different experience, and hopefully you will get some value from it.
So very well said, I think, by all the three panelists. So before I just sum up what we all spoke, how many of you are parents here? Please raise your hands. All of you? Some of you. Okay. So let's coming back to parenting, and when we're talking about defining parenting, I think parenting is different for each one of us. And it's something which is not taught. It just comes around when you have children. This is one subject I think which should be taught, and I also personally feel, it's a wonderful experience to first have the baby in your arms, to now see them grow into university and school life and then do well for themselves. And now that she's saying she's a grandmother. So it's a journey, and I think it's a very involved journey. And as much as we can we give in more than 200% into every child that we have, or the relationship we have with the child. And when we talk about digital tools, I think what she said was absolutely correct, that, a lot of schools are now progressive schools that tell you through an app how your child is doing. So the over or the under involvement as a parent, is very balanced now, because you automatically know what all grades your children are getting, how well the child is doing, is he failing, is he passing, is he doing wonderfully well. And teachers are also getting very tech savvy. In one of the conversations that I heard during the day, I was talking about technology in classroom. I think it's so important for all of us to be technologically able now, so as to not only understand what's happening around, but also to maneuver with the times and go with the times, and also see how digitalization can actually help in parenting. So our next question is, what constitutes good parental involvement and engagement? So can I ask Tony to please begin?
Okay, very good question, thank you. So what constitutes good parenting engagement? So I'm sitting here at the moment and I'm picturing you as parents of my students. At the moment there are 25 of you in the room. Guess how many of you have been on a mobile phone since the presentation has started and it's not looked up? 7. Guess how many of you have been on the phone and have looked up once? 5. So out of the 25 of you in the room, not to pick anyone out, just an observation, and we're looking from a parental viewpoint, there are so far 13 engaged parents. Of the 13 engaged parents, some are taking notes, some are not. So when we look at engagement, we need to look at what the engagement is. Now, I may be incorrect in that some of the engagement on the phone may be people taking notes. It may be people videoing the session. But my assumption as a trainer or a teacher out the front here is that from a parental engagement, we sort of have a disengaged or half a disengaged group and half a group that is engaged with us. And that's the norm for me. The norm for me is that 3/4 of this room is disengaged. They are only here because it is visiting time. There are a quarter, normally sitting over in that side of the room, for me, who are engaged because they're looking at how their son and daughter are going and they're hoping for a better life for them. There are some who are disengaged because they're just waiting for their son and daughter to come back out in order for them to rejoin the family business. And there are some who have no engagement whatsoever and they probably aren't even in the room. So that's where, for me, some of my expectations when we talk about parental engagement is about being able to read a room when you are actually interacting with the parents and being able to discuss with the parents who are disengaged what would help them become engaged in their child's life or in their child's journey. I already have the ones who are engaged on board. That's okay. They're going to listen. They're still going to be engaged. However, the ones who are disengaged are the ones who I need to engage, who I need to work with. So as the saying goes, normally it's the squeaky wheel that gets the most oil. As a teacher or as a trainer, we should be looking at those who are not squeaking, because they're the ones who, in my opinion, need the most help, most advice, most guidance in order to be able to assist their child.
Absolutely correct. Well said.
As teachers, we tend to put parents into categories. The helicopter parent, the snowplow parent. And from my point of view, give me any than disengaged parents. So having worked at a boarding school where children came from different countries and parents didn't speak the language and were far away and not possible to contact them, that was a very difficult situation. So for me, I would much rather have parents on board and engaged, regardless of how difficult they might be. There's always ways to manage that, than having parents who are disengaged, because that is such a challenge for teachers.
As a parent, I think it's hard. It requires a lot of resources to be daily engaged, and there is so much on already on our agenda. Therefore, it's really needed for me as a parent to be effective that I get engaged by the school and they steer the direction where I should invest my resources, and that I get given some direction. What are the needs of my children? What are the observations in the schools? What are the special needs? So I need a constant exchange and get that kind of input so that I direct my available resources to help my children as good as it gets on the daily journey.
Thank you. I think it sums it all. It depends, like she said, helicopter parents, they're on top of everything. And then there are some disengaged parents who just don't bother. But I think a great mix of both should be an ideal situation for parenting. We should be in touch with our school teachers and the leadership out there to understand how the child is progressing, and if in case he or she needs extra help. While I understand that sometimes we hear it from students, don't talk to my teacher, don't come to my school, don't ask her how I'm doing, you will get the report card at the end of the year. But that's just not the right policy. I think a little bit of engagement, walking into PTMs, being regular. Like I always tell my husband, whenever there's a PTM, you're missing. And now he's made it a point that since the boys are now in senior school and university, I think it's always good to be there, to be able to hear how the child is doing in school and how we can help him to do even much more better. So next question is comparison of parenting trends in different countries. So I come from India and Tony's from Australia.
I'm from South Africa.
I'm from Switzerland.
So let's discuss and go diverse and understand how parenting and how parental engagement happens in various countries. And let's start with
So I getting engaged on a daily basis by my children's with helping them with doing the homework. Even that is not that easy for me. Even if my middle one is only at the 5th grade, it's sometimes hard for me to understand the subject. But what I try to do is give them the support. I often think of a good way of engaging is kind of also neglecting, controlled neglecting. Let them come up with their own solution. Let them make mistakes. It doesn't need to be perfect. But I, as a dad, need to engage when they cross certain boundaries. Then I need to step in and help them, or they need to find their own solution. Often also compare parenting, engaging parenting with like my kids as little birds. They at the beginning, they are in a nest. They need a lot of pampering. I need to give them food. I need to help them support on a daily basis. But then they become more and more independent. And my biggest goal is that they learn to fly at one day. And then when at the point in time, then when they learn to fly, they are on their own. They can start exploring. They can learn on themselves. And if they do something right, then they fly off, become independent, and one day they come back and appreciate all the work that was involved in parenting and very resourceful engagement that we had to invest into our children.
Despite being South African, I currently live in Switzerland and work for a Swiss foundation that builds schools in former Soviet Union countries and Africa. So I've had the opportunity to work with teachers in teacher training in 35 different places. And I can honestly say where the teaching profession is respected, for example, in Switzerland and countries like Finland, parents are not that involved in their child's education because there is tremendous respect and trust of the teaching profession. But for example, working in a country like Ukraine, where it's probably one of the lowest respected professions, teaching, parents feel no disrespect to walk into a classroom in the middle of a lesson and confront a teacher. So, and that's also ties in with the teachers' salaries, which is extremely low, and there is considerable disrespect for teachers in countries like that. So I do think in countries like Finland, where teachers' time is respected and working conditions, salaries are very high, it's a far easier situation to manage parents because you feel the respect and you feel appreciated, and it makes conditions so much easier.
I'm going to flip it because who wants to hear about what I do in Australia? You know, a parent is a parent, in my opinion. I want to know, though, and I'm actually going to, because I hate sitting down. Sorry, I'm just going to change things up a little bit. I want to know from your end down here, why did you come to this session? What did you hope to get out of this rather than hearing me talk about parents?
Me, I would like to hear different opinions about how experts see the involvement of parents and how we can better advise parents to become more effective in engaging with their children without being too much and without controlling their life, letting them be unique and guiding them towards achievement of their full potential.
Okay, thank you. Now, does anyone else have anything different to this? Are we all here for the same reason? I've got a hand over there, so I'm just going to come over here, then I'm going to give you my response.
First of all, I want to say I love Australia. It's one of my favorite countries. So I'm actually motivated to attend this session because I am very curious in understanding your opinions as well as some of my colleagues to see how we can develop that mental strength, mental resilience for our children, because I've been hearing a lot of conversations about bullying, AI integrations and misusing and all that, but I feel that I've heard very little about how to create that mental resilience, that mental strength in our children so they can constructively navigate the challenges of life as well as, social issues and all. Yeah. And
You're just going to add one thing before you respond. Did you have more? No, that's all. I think, to piggyback on my friend Dimple here, I know that a lot of people attend these sessions to hear at least one nugget of actionable something that makes them go, ooh, oh, that's different. I'm going to put that into practice immediately. One little tiny spark from a colleague, and we're hoping that one of you four might share that. That's what I think many people from any of these talks are hoping to gain.
That's why I asked the question to everybody, because we can talk about our parental expectations, what we experience in our isolated area or niche. However, I don't know your parents. I don't know your parents who live in you. I don't know the children who live in you. So from my viewpoint, in order to answer the question, is that parental is actually going to be quite different depending on the individual parent and the individual child, as well as the individual parent and the individual child on the situation, on the school, and on the country in which they're in. So for me to be able to answer that question, I can't because I don't know your students. The only way which I can answer that is get to know your students, get to know your parents, and then you will find a solution to your problem.
thank you. I agree. It's very subjective.
Can I add a nugget? I would say if there's one thing that I could advise parents, it would be to model appropriate behavior, to be organized, to encourage your children to meet deadlines, to be self-sufficient, to advocate for themselves, to deal with their classroom teacher before the parent gets involved. Encourage your children to fend for themselves as much as possible. Only if it's a situation where the parent is really needed to be involved, get involved. But as much as possible, model appropriate behaviors. So meeting deadlines, being on time, knowing the school policy, knowing school rules, and just modeling excellent parental behavior. That would be my nugget for you.
From my experience, what I believe works really well is to have an exclusive communication channel that only focuses on parenting. We all getting too many emails, we all getting too much WhatsApp, we getting lost in the mass of information. And I believe if you really have like a one go-to stop shop where you find everything about the schools, the parenting, engagement, what is about the education, I think that helps me a lot as a parent to have that not kind of diverted with all the other information. Really have a focused communication channel, which is the foundation for a good collaboration within the family, but also with the school.
I'd like to just add to what all my co-panelists said. Most important, make out time for your children. What happens in the evenings when you all get back home, we're all on this, we're all glued to this. Knowingly, unknowingly, we have mails, we have approvals to give, we have job to do. But after 7 p.m., when you're back home and when the child's back home from his or her classes or sports, I think it's very important to give your child the time he or she deserves. And of course, like she said, appropriate behavior at home. Sit down with them. I think involvement with grandparents is so important. We've lost the culture where we've sitting down with them and understood what life is, what life was. We've given them so many luxuries in life which we didn't have when we were children. They've been just taken for granted. So I think spending time with your children, in the panel discussion before this one, I met a parent who was homeschooling and who also took her daughter to a lot of vacations to universities. What a fabulous idea to spend time with your children, visiting various educational institutions, heritage places, looking at, the culture of the particular country. I mean, that is quality time. So do take out time for your children, sit down with them, talk to them. When they were small, we would sing lullabies and tell them stories, but as and when they grow, they've got banners outside their room. Do not enter, knock before you come in. So where is all this coming from, So this is, times have changed. We need to understand them. We need to communicate, like Elias just said. We need to communicate, keep your channels open, talk, and let not there be any barriers in the communication. I chair a program called Young Thinkers Forum where I get school students to campus. And believe me, parents are so hesitant. They call me all the time. Is my child okay? Is my child doing okay? I mean, this is the first time he or she is moving out of house. Let him or her grow. Let him come out of his comfort space. Let him explore the world. Let him or her just come out of, their school space. So there's so much in the world that needs to be experienced. There are so many opportunities. Please feel free to let your children grow. And for them to grow, we need to stop guiding them at every point. We need to, put a full stop. Let them learn by doing. Let them learn by experiencing. And there's so much in this world. And the networking is the key to everything. And let's make new friends, go out for these excursions, enjoy their school life. And of course, as a parent, we are there to handhold, to guide, but yes, not to govern. So that's our viewpoint. And now we'll open the floor to questions because we'd love to hear your viewpoints as parents. How involved are you as a parent? How do you think the panel, went by, and any suggestions, any comments?
but that technology will change in Australia just due to the new legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm still administrator from the United States. I started my career in building off of Mexican culture, and one thing that really impressed me about that group was the socioeconomically low, but it showed up, and you really kind of like to see what are the factors involved, but also the culture, family, diet, but it was better. It was better in Los Angeles than in Biden. So if you have an actual better conference that really want to go on, it's a lot fun. And it was a big to people. Yeah. All moved back to where I grew up, Cleveland, Ohio. And I left it 5 years ago. First snow coming down. There, we had parent-teacher conferences, crickets, nobody. Civil opposition, socioeconomic, different population, what we have there, dynamics. And so what we need to do is, it's like we're going to do asset-based. What are the assets? And, run back here. Shy. And even when a grown child, like a parent, when given the opportunity for a rich opportunity, it's fun video game, or it's fun real life. The human spirit can be part of all here. You need to buy, but not on the computer. So, my encouragement is to think about how you use that asset base. Even for us, we don't have to be food. There's a lot of food security. So we offer that as a competitive and use together. That's what it is. So it's all about really thinking about what is, how we talk about. We gotta know what it is, but really asset based. We can do it all probably what do you have, how do you
100%. Know your market.
directly as a practice, profession, and as research. Now, in addition to the change, social media, etc., the change has always happened. Like the 20 years ago, there was no cell phone, telephones. You know, 10 years ago,
No gadgets.
yeah, but a little bit, unlimited change 20 years ago, it was from no, from let's say, no communication that is supposed to service. Or let's say, no movies to then create something. So the change is always there. It's not that change in social circumstances should
So, since you're from India, I'll give an Indian perspective. What happened 20 years back, we used to listen to our parents. They would show us an eye and we would be like, quietly walk down to our room and stay put. Here, when you show an eye, they show back an eye. Hello, what is it, mom? It's okay, it's cool. Bro, all these things, all these terminologies have now come on. I mean, I don't remember talking like that to my father at all. So the change has come around not only in the way we were brought up, but the way, like I just said, we've given too much. There's just too much given to our children. Going out for us was a luxury once a month to Nirulas, if you know what I'm talking about. Now Nirulas, nobody goes. They need to go to 5-star hotels every week So the purchasing power has gone up. Talk about India, I don't know about other countries. The gadgets, one phone in the whole house. And my father used to say, girls, do not get phone calls after 9 p.m. Tell your friends to call you before 9 p.m. What is it that you need to talk to somebody after 9 p.m. at home? And I'm like, okay. So any call which would come, I would like, that's not my call, that's not my call. So, things have changed. Why we need to talk is, like I said, we need to grow with the times. We need to come, in sync with the generation right now. And I think that is what was lacking earlier. But now, as parents, they had set routines. For them, when we got independence in 1947, everything started from a scratch. I'm talking about Indian perspective, everything started from a scratch. A lot of people stood up on their own. So every penny earned was like really precious. Now, almost 75 years of our independence, there's just so much in plenty. So I think the discussion that is happening today is only because times have changed, and I personally feel as parents, we cannot have an autocratic leadership style with our children. We need to be democratic in our approach. We need to be connected to them. We need to talk to them. Like I just said, communication is number one. And of course, be as friendly as we can with them, I mean, teenagers, they have hormones. When they grow up, they have relationship issues. They need to make their career. There's so much competition. There's just so many opportunities, so much pressure to, perform. So let's support them in whichever way we can. Well, I have that parenting style. I may be wrong, I may be right, but it is very subjective in nature. But the reason, like the question that you asked, why are we having a discussion on parenting, is the only reason that we need to sync with the times. I think we're more aware now, we're more vocal. There were things inside the houses which used to happen and nobody used to know, but thanks to social media, I know exactly where my son or my friend or my husband is, with the tagging and everything on. There's so much exposure, there's so much awareness. I think, where was this 20 years back or 40 years back? I mean, to afford a mobile phone, one mobile phone, by the head of the family, and then gradually the mother and the father and the grandparent and the children, and now even the maidservants. Everybody has a smartphone. So see, we're more aware now. And of course, I would say, personal opinion, I like the 1980s. I like the 1990s. I don't want to see this morning, evening. Believe me, I would just rather have one phone in the house and be okay. I don't want to see where anybody is partying or where anybody is holidaying. I don't want to see all of that. That's so personal, in your frame. But we are so used to. I came here yesterday, the first thing I did was tag myself at Education 2.0 conference in Dubai. So we are now so used to it, and sometimes it's work which asks you to be like, it's so good to be on LinkedIn, to connect to all of you. It's showcasing the kind of work you do, sharing what you're doing. So where was all this? So that's what I'm saying. Changing with the times has always been the case.
I think I've got your question. So, at the moment, yes, we have a seminar presentation on parenting, on how to interact, what's parents' role in schooling. Once again, showing my age, in the 80s, I was involved in research which looked at parental involvement with high school students in physical education classes. So, however, that research probably wasn't found or wasn't discussed because there was no internet. There was no access to information. However, and once again, showing my age, and there's probably a handful of people in the room here that will remember it, you can use these little things called microfiche, and you'll probably still find information on parental involvement within schools dating right back since day dot, when a structured school system was first implemented in whichever country you went to. It's just the fact that now we have access to that information as soon as it is published.
Being a parent is a 24/7 job. It's the only job you don't need to qualify for. Therefore, I think it's really good to learn from each other, to learn from good practices, and to share as good as you can. You're going to always make mistakes, but you have to not repeat those mistakes. And I think that was this platform. It's a little bit about giving some insights into parenting and the daily challenges. Thanks a lot. I think time is up. We overdid, and
Questions to all of you, and thank you for hearing us out. It's a pleasure. Please do connect with us on LinkedIn. Like we just said, let's move with the times. All the best to all of you for being great parents and great grandparents. Thank you, co-panelists, for being here. It was wonderful to connect. I think we've been WhatsApping each other since almost 15 days. And also thank you to Education 2.0 for having us here. We look forward to many more conferences like this in the near future. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.